Effort in creating jobs will also help to identify the appropriate skills for youth, women, and men that can be developed to provide more alternative livelihood to the people of Ogoni land.
Governor Wike advised the federal government to prioritize award of clean-up contracts to competent Ogoni contractors as a means of empowering them. In the implementation of the recommendations contained in the UNEP report for alternative livelihood for Ogoni women who are to be trained in agribusiness at Shongai Farms in Rivers State, the governor suggested that the federal government should ensure that those scheduled for the training are real indigents of Ogoni.
And the United Nations says the world must cut its carbon emissions to net zero by 2050 to limit the potential devastation of climate change, with flooding, drought, heat waves, and more sweeping the world. Experts say it is time to draft youths into the war against climate change. Vivian Oguche has more for us.
Before COVID-19 hit, climate change was arguably one of the most dangerous global threats. It still is. 2050 is not here yet, but the impact of climate change can be seen across the world, and Nigeria is not exempt.
People see the melting ice caps, the polar bears, and they say it's not our problem. But it is our problem, because here in Lagos we are sinking. The flooding, our desert is eroding, the whole of our north. The east is having landfalls and splitting of the earth. There is a crisis upon us. And as Nigerians, it is important that we face this crisis. The Dawn Project aims to combat climate change through the arts and through poetry and through different means to bring together people who would not normally be interested in climate change.
When we cut down trees, temperatures start to rise. Trees are supposed to mop up carbon monoxide. When they say 4 children died because generator was in the house, fumes overnight, or a whole family, they ate dinner and I passed my neighbor, killed them. That death is strictly due to air pollution. What killed them is because they were in an enclosed space. Now, that same thing that killed them is what we're exposed to every day in the air.
We need to use every means possible to promote the cause of creation care, simply because we're wrecking the system. And as the Secretary General of the United Nations said, mankind is making war against nature, and she is fighting back, and you can't beat nature.
This group of experts have made it their mission to include youths in programs that would help preserve the environment.
Our generation, we have almost lost the plot. We need to go to the next generation, the children, to take up this fight, to protect Mother Earth, to hold the earth in trust for our children's children and their own.
Science is clear. If nations fail to cut down carbon emissions, the disruption of economies, societies, and people caused by COVID-19 will pale in comparison to what the climate crisis holds in store. A Plea is a poem written by Pamela Ajayi. It talks about the pains of Mother Earth.
I search in vain for a saviour, while all around me I see man, feasting, laughing, living, dying. Restore me, return the splendour that once was mine.
Vivian Oguche for Plus TV, Africa.
Thanks to Vivian Oguche for that report. And now moving on to stories in other parts of Africa now. Ethiopia's Prime Minister has acknowledged for the first time that troops from Eritrea have been in the Tigray region following the outbreak of conflict in November. For months, both countries have denied that troops crossed the border. Abiy Ahmed told MPs that Eritrean forces came fearing they would be attacked by Tigray's regional fighters. The conflict began after the Tigray People's Liberation Front captured military bases in the region.
የናሽናል ሴኩሪቲ ጉዳይ ስላለብን ነው የሚል መከራከሪያ አቅርበዋል። ሁለተኛ የሚፈጸም በደል አለ፣ ዘረፋ ይታማል፣ ሌሎች ጉዳዮች ይታማሉ የሚለውን ለኤርትራ መንግስት አቅርበናል። ለኤርትራ መንግስት በከፍተኛ መንገድ ነው የኮነነው። ማንም የኔ ወታደር በዚህ የሚሳተፍ ካለ እርምጃ ወስዳለሁ በሚል ማለት ሴት በመድፈር ንብረት በመዝረፍ ጥፋቶች እንደተካሄዱ መረጃዎች ያመላክታሉ። ከሀገር መከላከያ ሰራዊት ጋር ሳምንት ነው የገመገምነው። ትናንት እሁድ ነው የጨረስነው። የሀገር መከላከያ ሰራዊት አባል ሆኖ በትግራይ እህቶቻችን ላይ መድፈርን፣ መዝረፍን የፈጸመ ማንኛውም ወታደር በሕግ ይጠየቃል።
And now to stories outside Africa now. Mexico and the United States have discussed ways to protect migrants, even as Mexico's human rights watchdog flagged a risk to a new militarized drive to deter Central Americans from entering its territory. U.S. President Joe Biden sent envoys, including his border coordinator, Roberta Jacobson, to Mexico to discuss how to tackle a recent jump in migrant arrivals at the U.S. border that have put the new Democratic administration under mounting pressure. The Mexican Foreign Ministry said in a statement that the talks highlighted humanitarian actions to promote economic development in Central America to mitigate the root causes of migration. And now in business, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria has vowed to retain the monetary policy rate at 11.5%. The announcement was made by the CBN Governor, Godwin Emefiele, at the end of a two-day meeting at the CBN headquarters. The committee also retained the liquidity ratio at 30% and cash reserve ratio at 27.5%. The CBN governor said 6 members voted to maintain all parameters, while 3 voted to increase the MPR. The MPR, according to him, is the baseline interest rate in an economy, and every other interest rate used within an economy is built on the MPR. Now, on entertainment news, American singer Anissa Nikaj has announced the official release date for the remix of her song Love Circle, following award-winning musician Davido. Anissa, who initiated the collaboration for a remix of one of her solo singles, took to her Twitter page to disclose that the collaborative single will be released on the 25th of March. The collaboration comes a few months after Anissa had gained the attention of Nigerians on Twitter for lending her voice to the End SARS protest last year. The singer also adopted the Nigerian name Eniola. And now in sports, the number of players in Super Eagles camp has increased to 23 after the trio of Wilfred Ndidi, Victor Osimhen and Samuel Chukwueze joined their teammates. Kelechi Iheanacho is, of course, the player who recently just arrived with a tweet from the Super Eagles camp a few hours ago announcing his arrival at the Eco Hotel camp. The players had a light training session today with all the players participating. The players had their first training session on grass this evening at the yesterday evening, I beg your pardon, at the Teslim Balogun Stadium. Super Eagles coach Gennard Rohr gave the Teslim Balogun pitch a pass mark.
I told it to everybody already. We are very happy about the pitch. They had a good work on it. It was good.
People forget that these boys themselves are Nigerians. That's as disappointed, if not more disappointed than you and I. And they're determined to put that behind them. They see it, and we should see it as a bad day in the office. But they're determined that it won't happen, it won't recur. And I believe them.
Would it be by air, by sea, by road?
If you wish.
Which one?
And that's the news brief. For more, follow us at Plus TV Africa on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa. We'll be back later with more stories. I am Osao Gie Ogbonla. Thank you for watching.
Plus Sports and Plus TV Africa. On a Wednesday morning, you call it Plus Sports and Plus TV Africa. I call it your midweek thriller. My name is Wale Scott. Welcome on the show. I have a guest on the show. I'll come back to her later. Yes, a lady. And of course, I'll tell you something about her that you guys don't know. She's a peculiar journalist. I'll tell you about that. Now, the Edo State government has assured residents that the Edo 2020 National Sports Festival will not disrupt the academic calendar of primary and secondary schools in the state in any way. Mr. Osarodion Ogie, who is the secretary to the state government, SSG, gave the assurance in a statement. Now, he urged residents to disregard information that was being circulated that the academic activities in the schools had been adjusted on account of the sports festival. The activities of the festival do not in any way affect the school calendar. Management of schools, both public and private, parents and pupils, are to adhere to the calendar earlier released, upon which they have been conducting the activities, and disregard any contrary information. He added the primary and secondary schools are to go on the Easter break on Friday, April 2nd, and resume on Tuesday, April 6th. The second term examination holds from April 26th to 29th. The schools are to go on vacation on April 30th and resume for third term on May the 10th. That's not my story today. This is my story this morning. And this, I don't know. Maybe I should read it first, and then you guys should get your opinion by yourself, you know? Now, athletes from Kogi State may be barred from participating in the 20th National Sports Festival in Edo State from April 2nd to April 14th. Now, the Edo State Deputy Governor, Philip Shuaibu, who doubles as the chairman of the local organizing committee of the sports festival, said athletes must take COVID-19 vaccines before arrival for the event. Now, Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello, however, said he won't take the COVID-19 vaccine and would also not encourage residents of the state to take it. According to the Executive Director of National Primary Health Care Development Agency, Dr. Faisal Shuaib, all states except Kogi have taken delivery of the COVID-19 Oxford AstraZeneca vaccines. Reacting the essay on media to the Minister of Youth and Sports Development, John Joshua Konji, said COVID-19 vaccination was compulsory for athletes to be admitted into the festival. Meanwhile, athletes and officials in the Edo State contingent for the festival will begin their COVID-19 vaccination on Wednesday, that's today, ahead of the competition. Now, my guest today, Odwanyo Ruth Hassan, Odwanyo Hassan, is not your regular journalist. She doesn't sit back at home or in her office and sit on a computer. She goes to all the stadiums across Nigeria to see for herself. Odun, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Great to be here, Osman.
People have called this different names, illiteracy, ignorance, different things, but how can a governor of a state say, I will not take the COVID-19 vaccine, I don't need it, and nobody in my state should take it, at the expense of these athletes to Edo 2020? Hello, Odun.
Hello.
Hello, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Can you come again, please?
I said, the governor of Kogi State has said, I will not take the COVID-19 vaccine, and I don't want anybody in my state to take it. The athletes from Kogi might be barred because they have refused to take the vaccine.
Well, for me, we all know how the Kogi State governor is. We know how the controversies and the issues that surround the governor, but I wouldn't want us to go into that. But then, if you really don't want to take it as a governor, why not just allow the athletes? You're just responsible for them as a governor, not necessarily because you can speak for them or then you have to stop them from taking the vaccine. I mean, this vaccine, most people have taken it. Even I myself have taken it, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's quite safe and effective. Even I think the NFL vice president has taken it. And if all the set of people have taken and it's being said like it's effective and safe, why would the governor allow? Why would the governor?
He's my personal person. I like him very much. But sometimes he makes some irrational decisions. How can a governor of a state insist and say, I don't need the COVID-19 vaccine? Nobody in my state needs it. In this year and time, when everybody say COVID is real?
You know, that's why I said he's a very controversial governor, with all due respect to him. But then I think we know his stance on this COVID-19 issue when it comes to Kogi State governor. There was a time he said he didn't agree it was in the state and all of that. So it has always been like that. I saw it coming. I knew he wasn't going to allow it, but I never knew it would get to the extent of him saying the athletes shouldn't take the vaccine and it would deny them of attending. It's just quite sad, and I'm really hoping they can find a way around it and probably plead with him and just allow these guys do whatever they want to do.
Now, moving forward now, the Edo State government says it will not affect the academic calendar of the students, secondary and primary, in the school. However, I'm moving forward now. How do you think Edo will be able to actually ensure that the COVID-19 pandemic does not spread in Benin, ensure the vaccines are taken in due time? And we know the athletes from Edo will get their vaccines starting from today. How will they ensure strict compliance against COVID in Benin?
I think first and foremost, they said they have to present their certificates of test. That is, every athlete should have gone through the test, through the COVID-19 test, and ensure most of them are negative before coming in for the festival. And now the vaccines are available. People are already taking it. So I think the measures, everything is in place, but I'm really hoping that the guidelines will be, in terms of the fans, because I don't know the number of fans that will be allowed in for the festival yet. I think that hasn't been concluded yet. But I'm thinking, I'm just hoping they can really adhere to all the guidelines of the COVID-19 so we don't fall into another pandemic. We just can't even afford that in Nigeria right now.
Now, speaking from you as Odun now, not as generally as Odun Ayo, would you say if you had your way, you would have let this festival go on? If you had your way? It's
a two-way thing, actually. I would have said no, the festival shouldn't go on. But when you look at the amount of talent that will be on display at the festival, you just have to put yourself in the shoes of this athlete and then maybe have a second thought that once the guidelines and everything can be put in place, why not?
Okay, don't stay with us, don't go anywhere yet. Now, the Super Eagles coach, Gernot Rohr, says he's satisfied with the 16 Balogun Stadium, Lagos Turf, venue of the national team's final 2021 African Cup of Nations qualifiers against Lesotho on March 30th. The Eagles, with the exception of, okay, now, we have a tweet this morning that says Kelechi Iheanacho, they call him senior man, Kelele, has finally joined the squad. He joined sometime last night. I was with the squad in the evening yesterday. He joined the squad sometime last night. Now the AFCON qualifier against Benin Republic at the Stade Charles de Gaulle in Porto Novo will hold on Saturday. Now, on a wet turf, after a drizzle, the team engaged in several programs under the watchful eyes of the French German. And of course, we also had Seyi Akinwumi. Of course, he is the Vice President, NFF. He spoke about his optimism and the boys will do well, but he refused to disclose their mode of transportation.
I told it to everybody already. We are very happy about the pitch. They had a good work on it. It was good.
People forget that these boys themselves are Nigerians. That's as disappointed, if not more disappointed than you and I. And they're determined to put that behind them. They see it, and we should see it as a bad day in the office. But they're determined that it won't happen, it won't recur. And I believe them.
Would it be by air, by sea, by road?
You wish?
Which one?
Now, the final statement he made there, we didn't show that. He said they will get there. He said you wish, and then said they will get there. He didn't say whether it was by air, by road, or by sea. Now, Odun, let's come to you first off. Kelechi has finally arrived, so we have a full 24-man squad right now. And like we've always said, we are going to have no Nigerian-based player having a goal in any of those games. Love it or leave it. For how long will we do this for?
Well, I think Raw can decide to shock us at this point. You can never be so sure.
Do you think so? Do you think so?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Looking at the caliber of players we have, I mean, talking from the home base aspect, we have an exciting young player in Anayo Oluwala. And I believe Guerrero has seen one or two games. I think the Continental game against Rivers United, he saw him play and a few other games as well. And then he said he didn't pick this player based on his opinions alone. He actually consulted some people in the NFF, people like Salisu Yusuf, people like Bogun. I'm just thinking, and I'm hoping it's going to shock us, because I would really love to see an home-based player starting or probably getting few minutes of play in that in one of the two games. And then we have the goalkeeping aspect. If you look at the goalkeeping aspect, we have 3 goalkeepers in the squad now. If Maduka probably starts the first game, probably the second game or the second half against Benin Republic, we can have the Enyimba goalkeeper. Why not? After all, Uzo is just coming back from a very long time injury, and I think he will need more time to get back to fitness and all that. So I think John Noble can actually have a shout at the goalkeeping department. I don't think he will shut them entirely out this time around. I'm thinking he's going to give them some time of play.
I saw more of John Noble actually training with the team yesterday than even Uzoho. He was more on the pitch training with them than Uzoho, which means just somewhere along the line, you might be right. Noble might have a chance to actually have a go before even Uzoho.
That's why I said I won't be surprised if Enro gets to play him in one of those 2 games, because Uzoho is just returning from a very long time injury, and he will still need some time. Maduka, you can't have Maduka for both games. We need to check out these players before the proper AFCON next year. So I think John Noble has a chance, and I'm so happy for this John Noble of a guy. He wasn't meant to be the first choice at Enyimba this season. He was actually the 3rd choice. It was because Kayode got injured, and then the other goalkeeper as well was injured, and then he came in as a cover-up for some games, and he did so excellently well. Luckily for him, I think everyone saw the game against Rivers United in the Continental game, where he was actually very, very fantastic. So I think he's someone that is very, very reliable. I'm even happy that it wasn't Ezenwa that was brought in, because we've always made a case for other goalkeepers in the league that we have better goalkeepers than Ezenwa. And I think that's what we have in John Noble this time. So I'm looking at it that he's going to start one of those games. I don't think Maduka will be in goal for both games.
Okay, now let's look at it from this perspective. Now, I want to ask this question. I saw our squad yesterday, and I was really very impressed. I'm very optimistic about this game. I saw a very up-and-going Victor Osimhen. It was really very pleasant. It was really, really cool. Kelechi has come now. Our strike force is being there's a large competition there. Our midfield super, Chukwueze, Ndidi, the rest of them. I think we have a full squad here that can take on anyone, especially against a Benin Republic who are playing largely home-based players.
Yes.
However, I want to believe that the African football is much, much more different than European football. It's much more rugged. And our boys are butter boys.
As well.
Yeah, they don't want to break their legs. And these guys are home-based players who play in Benin Republic. They will play hard. They will play tough. And our boys don't want to get injured. Would that be a minus for us?
I don't think so. Because the boys are talking tough, and the spirit in camp is actually very high, like you said. They are very excited. Most of them will be playing in Lagos for the very first time, and they're actually training in Lagos for the first time in about over 20 years already. So I don't think that will be their mindset right now. I listened to some of the media quality they had yesterday, and most of them are quite optimistic, and they are quite eager to how do I put it? Remembering the last disappointment they had back in Nigeria, where they came, the Sierra Leoneans came back from 4-goal lead to draw the game 4-4. So I don't think they want to disappoint. I think they're still going to put their all into this game. I don't think that will be the case. There won't be any case, though. Initially when the list came out, some of us were of the opinion that we should have probably used the local-based players to prosecute this game. But since Guerrero doesn't think that way, I think for me, they don't have that mindset right now. They just want to get this. Once we get the 3 points against Benin Republic, they can just come back home to play Lesotho in Lagos. It will just be a party stuff. So there won't be. I don't think they have that mindset right now.
Okay, now the Super Eagles will take on. But I saw the stadium. I don't know if you noticed when the cameraman actually took the empty seats. Now, we don't know what exact amounts. Some of us say it's 10,000 people will be allowed into the stadium on that day.
Yes, about 30,000 capacity.
Some said, how many do we visibly see watching that match against Lesotho?
I didn't get the question. How many do we see?
Might we visibly see on that day? How many thousands might we see that day?
This is... Are you talking about the game in Lagos or?
In Lagos.
Away to Benin Republic. Okay, the one against in Lagos. I'm telling you, if not for the pandemic that is currently going on right now, I'm sure Lagos fans are ready to storm the stadium.
You need
but
to have
I'm
seen
really
it was training yesterday. You need to have seen the crowd yesterday. Training, no?
Just the training alone.
Yes.
So it's going to be very difficult to control these fans, but I know everything can be put in place. It's just about 30% of the regular capacity that will be allowed into the stadiums. And I don't know if the tickets are going to be sold yet. I only know about the journalist aspect, the journalists that will be coming into the stadium. I know they will be able to control it. This is Lagos. The game is on TV actually, so we can just stay back at home and watch it. The fans they don't really have to come into the stadium and disturb the game. And you know Lagos fans, they can be very, very hostile. That's why I'm hoping they can get all the 3 points against the Republic away before coming back home, so there will be less pressure on the team, because Lagos fans, they can be very hostile when you're not playing well or when you're not playing convincingly. So they need to win and win convincingly away in Benin Republic. So they will just come back home. The pressure will be less on those guys. They won't be so worried about the fans.
Before I go to my next story, still on crowd control, I refuse to show this to the public here, but I know that it was just training yesterday, but I still saw, I have shots, but I won't do that. I have shots of people who actually went over the fence, under the fence at Teslim, just to try and get a glimpse of the Super Eagles players. That's the kind of respect Lagos fans have for the Super Eagles. They will do everything possible. Now, if they could go under the fence and over the fence for training, I'm trying to think of crowd control on the day of the match proper.
Yes, we'll have, as I said, I know the NFF are putting so many things in place in terms of security and the kind of people that will control the crowd on that day. We'll be begging the fans to just please stay away. They can watch this game on TV. After all, they've seen them in training yesterday. They'll probably still see them today. But then they can we have to just plead with the fans to please stay away from the stadium. We don't want CAF to sanction us because they only gave us 30% of our regular capacity. So we wouldn't just want the fans. We don't want a case of the one we had in Kaduna some time ago, that there was issue controlling the crowd. But this is Lagos. This is a very much more exposed city. So I just hope we coordinate ourselves on that day.
Thank you very much. Please stay with us. Don't go anywhere yet, please. Now, Gareth Bale says he plans to return to Real Madrid next season after his loan at Tottenham ends. Wales captain Bale rejoined Spurs on a long loan in September, but has a year left on his Real Madrid contract, which expires in the summer of 2022. Bale, who is 31, is with Wales as they prepare for their opening World Cup qualifier away against Belgium today.
It's no distraction for me coming into the Euros. I think the main reason I obviously came to Spurs this year was obviously I wanted to play football first and foremost, but going into Euros I wanted to be match fit. So yeah, the original plan was only to do a season at Spurs, and then yeah, after the Euros I still have a year left at Real Madrid, and yeah, as far my plan obviously is to go back, and yeah, that's as far as I've planned, to be honest. Yeah, I always think when things aren't going too well at the club, it's nice to get away and especially mentally get away from the club environment. So yeah, definitely it can be a benefit. So but yeah, the first thing we have to do now is focus on these couple of games for Wales, which is very important for us, and yeah, then we forget club life and concentrate on this.
Odum, before I come to you on Wales versus Belgium, Belgium will be hoping to forget their Euro 2016 quarter-final defeat against Wales when they face the team again in a World Cup qualifying match today. The 3-1 loss to Gareth Bale's side sent the Red Devils home from the tournament in France, but manager Roberto Martinez brushed away the memory of the defeat at a news conference before team training yesterday.
Good evening, Coach.
Hi, Christoph. International football is about the moment, it's about adjusting, it's about adapting, it's about bringing new blood, new players, facing the opposition. We are well aware that this Welsh team had a really good camp previously, but this is international football. I think the stats are just for the outside and the media and to prepare the game, but internally I don't think there is a lot of continuity or anything that it can affect the game tomorrow. First and foremost, it was important to be safe. And then from that point on, it's been a real, probably I would say routine work. I think now we're used to this sort of situation, so I don't like to speak about anything that has been out of the normal in the last year. A lot of communication, following the regulations, following the laws, and following what the local governments establish, and that's the only way that we can keep everyone safe, but we're delighted that Romelu's here.
Obviously, we played them a lot of times before in qualifications, and obviously the last one was the Euros one. That was obviously a tough one, but the ones before, it also depends in the group. I remember that we played one game, the last one against them. We were already qualified as first, so it's less meaning. Tomorrow is a really different stage again. Is the first game in a new qualifier, so it's different scenery, totally different players, and it's just something new. It's nothing comparable that what would have happened in the past.
Ask yourself, Odun, you're welcome back.
Yeah.
Now, Odun, Wales against Belgium. You cannot but undermine the fact that one of the most improved team in the world is Belgium. Lukaku, Thorgan and Eden Hazard, Kevin De Bruyne, but they still lost against Wales. Who does Wales have? I thought Gareth Bale and Daniel James. But they still lose again. But Lukaku and the rest of them say that we're coming back for revenge. We will beat Wales this time around. What do you think?
It's just one of, you know, we usually say when the giants are sleeping, then the other small teams can easily take over. I think this one, they are going to come all out. I mean, Belgium, they have all the Arsenals in their squad to get these 3 points. And I think Lukaku has said it right. This one is a revenge mission. And you mentioned that Eden Hazard is currently injured, but you have other players who can equally come up.
His brother is there, Thorgan.
Sorry?
Thorgan is there, and he's a fantastic player too.
Yes, that's why I said they have other players that can equally come up and just match against this Wales side. It's that the reverse game was just a one-off. It happens once in a while. After all, we've seen some small things defeat some big teams in the world, but it doesn't mean those big teams are down and out. But I think they are going to get the maximum points this time around.
I am scared, Odun. Every year, year in, year out, maybe because Nigerians are used to watching the English Premier League. Year in, year out, the English Three Lions bring out a scary team. Very scary. And they go there and they don't do anything fantastic. Look at the team that's got everybody there, Harry Kane, Jamie Vardy. Everybody is there, and the team is scary when you see the list. But when they go to play, nothing.
That has always been the story of the Three Lions. But I think they disappointed a few of us in the last World Cup. We didn't give them any chance to get to the last four. They actually did that. So I think they're getting better all over the years. This is no longer the England team that we usually. The names are actually scary, truly, like you said. But I think this time around things are different, are quite different under Gary Southgate. He wouldn't invite any player that is not informed. He will invite players that are actually informed right now. So I think that this, for me, I trust in this very team compared to the previous ones.
I saw a team list again this morning, and that one was really very scary. You know, I asked myself, when Nigeria goes to the World Cup and we see teams like this, it's over. Let's just say we're not playing again, and we'll go back up. I saw the Portuguese national team this morning, and I realized that in every position, there are 3 world-class players. Every position, world-class.
I saw it as well.
Wow. Who can beat a team like that?
I was actually thinking in that line, and imagine Nigeria playing against this team and Raw with his very rigid tactics against this kind of squad. It's really going to be funny. But you know, football is not like that. It's a game you play out there on the pitch. Things might actually be different, and it's going to be a different story at the end of the day.
The Brazilian national team. Another thing we should look out for. There are so many new players from nowhere, coming from nowhere, who are in the Brazilian team that we are shouting Neymar. And we're not looking at other players who are just there, waiting for their own turn to turn into a Seleção and make it happen. There are so many teams breeding young players, and this is what Nigerians are saying. Bring the young players out. Even if we don't win, with time we will get to win. These teams are actually bringing players, young boys, every day. Even in Africa, you have our very own Côte d'Ivoire and all that are bringing out the small boys, Amad Diallo, Imayu, and all that, from nowhere. But we are not doing that. We're looking for names, brands. For how long will we do that?
Do you think we are not bringing out?
Like who now? Like who?
Very young now.
Who?
Come young. Iheanacho, they are young.
Hey,
Victor Osimhen,
welcome.
they are very, very young. You know, years back, Iheanacho wouldn't even be starting for the Super Eagles. We'll probably still have Anigalo in the team. But things are quite different. I think we have a young squad as well. So I wouldn't say we are different from the rest of the world. We have a very, very young squad.
Okay, now let's do this. Let me put you on the hot seat this morning. Okay, from Odu now, let you predict scoreline against Benin Republic in Porto Novo and against Lesotho at the Testing Baduk Stadium Surulere.
Wow. I was thinking you were going to ask me to predict the probable 11 and not the scoreline, because you know the Super Eagles are not predictable. I can just predict now, and they will decide to disappoint every one of us. But I think for me, 2-1 in Benin Republic.
I'll do some.
And once
okay.
that pressure is off us in Benin Republic, we have everything going for us. Coming back to Lagos, then it's going to be a whitewash.
I just got something from a brother and a colleague right now, and it's breaking right now. We've confirmed from some of the Super Eagles players that we heard they will be traveling by water.
Wow.
I don't know. What do you think about this? As in,
I actually suspected that a few days ago, I saw the NFF president traveling on water. He was leading by example. He was trying to tell us that everything is safe on water. So for me, I think it's no big deal. If we can travel by water, if that's the easiest route they can think of, then we can only pray for their safety.
we can only pray for. So how did we get here? Well, our Super Eagles will have to go to Benin Republic next door here. That we can, by road is less than 3 hours. From Badagry is less than...
Our roads are bad. Our roads are bad, and we don't want to put this...
Whose fault is that now?
Difficulties.
So we have gotten to where we have to actually pray for our players to get there and come back by water.
We have always prayed for them, please. Even when they travel on here, we have always prayed for them.
That was a letter note, though. Thank you very much for thank you very much for joining on the show. Thank you very much for always being here when I call you. And we hope when we'll call you again next time, we'll be here again.
All right, thank you.
I promise to call you after the Benin Republic and Lesotho battle and see what you think about it so far.
All right.
Thank you very much. That was Oduanyo Ruth Hassan. Like I said earlier, she's a lady with a small body, big engine, you know. She doesn't like to sit down in front of a computer and just type. No, she likes to go to the stadiums across Nigeria and watch by herself. I can assure you, Porto Novo, if you don't watch it, she'll be there. And of course, I'm sure Testing Balogun, she'll be there too. Thank you, my brother and colleague. He sent me this message. Breaking now. We hear the Super Eagles will be traveling by water tomorrow. So we'll pray for their safety to and fro, okay, on the river. Thank you very much. Plus Sports on Plus Sport Africa, Plus TV Africa, of course. I call this your midweek thriller. My name is Wally Scott. Join me same time tomorrow for another edition. Like I always advise you at the end of every show, if not for anything, at least for your hearts, do some sports.
This Medan has been directed to empower 1,000 persons with disabilities in each state in the next 12 months.
When I start hearing the shoot of gun,
whatever I've done.
Every public policy has winners and losers, and some will not be very happy with you, while others, usually the silent majority, will be quite happy.
come out here and you build something of great value, you can make it. That's what's amazing about Silicon Valley, and that's why you see everyone flocking towards Silicon Valley.
It's really that place where there's this groundswell of smart people dedicated to using technology to solve very difficult problems.
I was like, oh my God, people just think of these things and it just happens, and how can I build something? I just want to build something from scratch.
We come here ready to make something of ourselves. So when an African leaves Africa and comes here, we're coming here to do battle.
Hi, my name is E, and I am Managing Director and co-founder of Flutterwave. And Flutterwave is one API for payments across Africa.
Hi, my name is Jonas Beshouted, CEO and founder of Stackshare. Stackshare is the best place for engineers and developers to discover and compare software tools.
Hi, my name is Bukola. I consider myself a connector. I build platforms to reach African audiences back home, as well as here in the US, to tap into their common interest. This is exactly what I've done with Jandus.
Mall for Africa is an online platform that enables US and UK retailers easily sell into Africa without any hassles or worries. We also help people in Africa purchase items from UK and US retailers without any stress. Mall for Africa started really with an idea. I was born and raised in Nigeria, so out of necessity, I guess, my parents and brothers and friends thought they could utilize me as their shipping company. There was one day in particular, I went to the airport and I had 10 suitcases. And I remember vividly the lady across the counter, it was a Delta flight, the lady across the counter looking at me up and down, you are not serious. This is not gonna happen. So I decided to build an app.
Jandus Radio started off with just word of mouth. I sent it to a couple of friends who wanted to listen to live radio back home. We didn't have a lot of apps that were catering to African content and radio at that time. So I sent it out to them and they sent it to their friends. And before you know it, it actually was a trending topic in Nigeria on Twitter for I think it was 12 hours straight. People were talking about, oh my God, I have an app that has over 300 radio stations. I'm in Abuja, I can listen to Beat FM. Beat FM is the most popular station in Lagos. And they're like, oh my God, I could never listen to this before. Now with this app, I can listen to my favorite station now.
I'm working on a platform product, which is payments, right? And I started digging into that and realized it was an absolute nightmare to be a developer and get paid in Africa. I'll give you an example. Up until recently, if you were an Android developer in Africa, you had to put your apps up for free. You couldn't make money on your apps because there was no way for Google to pay you. We're not just enabling people the ability to increase revenue by providing them new means of payment, but we're also enabling them to access global technology services by doing so, right? That is revolutionary.
The concept was, let's bring all of these tools that you use to build your company and your apps and infrastructure, let's bring them into one place and organize it. And other industries had done it. Yelp has done it for restaurants, TripAdvisor for travel and international places. So this wasn't really a new concept, but no one had really done this for software. If you think about it today, where do you go for software decisions? It's still Googling around and it's mad. We were actually the first site to really do that. You know, there were other sites that were trying to do sort of similar things. They've done software reviews, but we were actually the first site to say, you know, share all the software that you're using.
For an average entrepreneur in Silicon Valley, there are stages to what the venture funding cycle looks like. You have to start off with a seed stage. You have to be able to get people who believe in you early enough to take a risk in your idea. Every time an entrepreneur describes what they do, it usually has to hit the points of, I saw a problem, it was very unique, I had a solution, it was very unique, I was able to get, or I should be able to get somebody to pay me for my solution, but I should be able to repeat that so many times that it becomes scalable and sustainable.
I know people who have joined a startup that thinks it's going to be the next big thing. And then you just wake up one morning and they didn't get the funding round and it's lock up shop. And that's it. Happens a lot more often than it's talked about. We hear about the Facebook and Google and Apple and all the other startups that are successful, but 1 out of a million succeed and the rest fail.
Silicon Valley is probably the Disneyland of capitalism, is a good way to put it. It is a place where you can come and make your dreams come true, and particularly in the technology space, it's a really a good ecosystem to get things done. Yeah, and of course part of it's venture capital, right? So people take risks here, and you know it's a place that's tolerant of failure.
They're not looking necessarily for the steady company, they're looking for companies that will grow quickly. A lot of them will fail. They won't get their money back. Some of them will bring some money back, and a small percentage of them will hopefully bring a big return. The Draper Venture Network's mission is to be in all the places where interesting technology is being developed, where entrepreneurs are doing great things. And right now, we have partner funds on all the continents except Africa. So we're actively looking for a fund that fits the kind of profile we're looking for. They're investing in early stage technology companies.
It's not an exact science. A lot of it's just character assessment. People who are trying to build something bold versus like copying an idea. In it for the long term, have the tenacity and ambition to see it through, boldness. Yeah, definitely think e-commerce is a huge area, allowing Africans to buy products they couldn't otherwise access easily, particularly without having to build huge malls and, you know, kind of leapfrogging retail. Financial services is also a big area. FinTech, anything around telemedicine, because you know access to doctors is really hard in Africa.
What everybody hears is you raise the 100 million, they say, yeah. But that's not success. Success is lasting long enough till you can exit, either through an acquisition or an IPO, and the money that the investors get in becomes liquid and fungible. So a lot of businesses I've seen don't make it out of the exit, and that means everybody gets washed out. You just spend 7-8 years of your life working on this thing that didn't pan out.
The 5 or 6 most valuable companies on the stock exchange are technology companies that were once venture-backed. So it's a compelling story about how people that invest in high-risk ventures are able to move a society forward because they were willing to make the investment when those ventures looked silly. And one thinks maybe this could happen in Africa.
We belong to the school of thought that that believes very firmly that Africa's future will be built on the back of entrepreneurs. We are firmly rooted in bridging those knowledge gaps and making sure that the interconnectedness between Africa and the rest of the world comes in forms of capital in forms of education and resources, and mostly it's people and their ability to think and grow beyond what's currently attainable by.
I typed stuff and I ran it and it worked. I got thrown into mobile app development towards like 2010, where I created an app that went viral in Nigeria. Initially, it just started off as just radio and nothing else. So I said, what about news? What about gossip news, entertainment, sports, health news? Then I was like, okay, we can make this a little more social. What about having people interact on the app?
I'd always been into tech. You know, growing up, I was like the tech person within our family. You know, people would always look to me. So I'd always been interested in it, but I'd never considered it as a real career path because I didn't have someone that I could point to that was in that industry. Everyone I knew was, you know, sort of outside of tech.
I started to look at the internet as this space where it didn't matter who you were, but you were able to reach the most amount of people.
Hey, good to meet you, I'm Mark.
Mark Zuckerberg was my earliest influence. I've continued to be influenced by his approach to tech because it's the perfect mix of social mission, right, and economic impact. It's not about building a big company, and neither is it about being an NGO and giving everything away. It's about building a system.
Introducing Mall for Africa,
So let's say you are in a rural town in Nigeria. Download the app on your preferred device, find the product you want. Once you've added it to the cart, you click on Our Pay button, and as they say, that's when the magic happens. We take the content from the cart, we put it in our environment, and now we allow you to select where you want to have the item shipped, how you want to pay for the product. Once you've made the payment for the product is then shipped from the site you purchased it from. It's shipped to our warehouse. Then we tag it, and then we ship it out to you, taking care of all customs, duties, fees, and making sure everything goes perfectly right.
When I turned 25, kind of just reviewing the 5 years, I kind of settled on this vision of the world that was about building the future of Africa. And for me, it settles on three things. So it's a remarkably clear vision of what I want to do. And it's very simple. It's people, it's platforms, and it's policy.
Andela is a platform for tech-powered growth.
Its future will be written in Lagos,
Nairobi,
and cities across Africa.
And that was what we did at Andela, right? Found really smart young people, very motivated, with high learning agility, paid them while we taught them how to build software, and then got Facebook and Google and IBM and all these companies to hire them to build products for them.
This is Andela.
So what Flutterwave is, it's an API that enables anyone from anywhere in the world to process any kind of payment across Africa. We are finally making financial inclusion real.
Every time I went to one of these hackathons, I'd see a new API and I'd think, man, I should know about that. Like, there should be this one online space that has all the best stuff and feedback from developers and engineers and people actually building software, you know? I was like, man, this should exist and I should just go build it, you know? And so I just treated it as a side project at first. At the time, it was called LeanStack. Eventually, I got introduced to this guy named Nick Grandy, and he was the first employee at Airbnb. So we started working together for about 6 months. We built out the first real version of LeanStack at the time, and then he actually stayed on as an advisor, and he was the first investor. So, you know, that was big.
We had a hosting company that had malfunction in their servers, and they deleted the whole database by accident and had no backup. Sadly, we had to shut down temporarily, but we're working on rebuilding.
We believe the best way to solve this problem is to show you what the best companies in the world are using and why.
The transition was, it's like realizing that the best thing we can do is try to mimic an in-person conversation between two people, the two engineers, right? It's like, okay, what's the problem you're trying to solve? Oh, okay, well, we don't have good visibility into how our app is performing in production. Okay, well,
here's what we use, right? Like, here's how we solve that problem, right? And you tell them what you use, and then like within 30 minutes, it's like, okay, I know that I need to use that now because I trust this person. I trust their decision-making process, and it sounds like a good one to go with. So let me go with that.
I have a passion for creating products that I am interested in and that I'm passionate about. It's tough because at the same time, you have to make a living. And being a startup founder, you don't always have the means to provide for yourself. I didn't have any of that, any serious investors. So after a while, I just to keep myself from not starving, I actually had to break down and actually get a 9-to-5 just so I can provide for myself.
I basically just kept at it because I saw the value of it and I saw that it was picking up steam. I could see it getting easier.
So you typically wake up around 4:35 because that's when the first calls are. My team all over the world, I try and talk to them as regularly as I can. I'll probably end around 12 only because I like to sync up with some banks and team members very early in the morning when they wake up. So it's a lot of work and not a lot of sleep.
Definitely, it's a lot of work because the 9-to-5 does take a lot of your time. But always in your free time, even if it's an hour or 2 hours a day that you can find, I'm always doing that. I'm working on something right now, that I'm hoping is gonna be very massively successful once I'm ready.
You go to a venture capital in Palo Alto on Sanio Road and you say, hey, I'm trying to raise funds for my African company. And they look at you and they say, are people buying Ralph Lauren? Are people buying Louis Vuitton? Do they know who Prada is?
So I think part of the challenge with being black in tech is that there just aren't enough black people in tech. When you see all the big companies, they all have like co-founders that went to school together. And when you grow up with people that aren't in tech, you don't have the luxury of saying, okay, I'm gonna start a company and I know exactly who I'm gonna tag and bring in as co-founders or early employees.
What role do networks play here in Silicon Valley? I think it's a huge, huge role. It might be the distinctive of Silicon Valley, how over time these networks have grown. Cold call somebody or send a cold email to somebody and say, hey, I saw this thing that you did, and surprise, surprise, they respond.
There's a lot of work that has to be done, the cultural preparation of what to expect in the Valley. And sometimes it's the most ridiculous, mundane, simple things. Punctuality at meetings, the way you approach people, email etiquette, business etiquette. It's the simplest things that have profound consequences within a cross-cultural scenario.
Growing up in Nigeria, as an African in Nigeria, I have natural networks. I have cousins, I have brothers, I have classmates. I like to say I can get to the president in Nigeria, whereas in the US, I can't even get to my mayor. If you are not from here, it's very difficult for you to have a social network. You have to create that social network yourself.
We want to make it.
If you came into Silicon Valley and you're a well-trained research and development professional and you went to Stanford or UCSF and you were a specialist in what you do, you'll get a great job and you'll get well paid. If you came into Silicon Valley and you were of African descent and you knew nobody in the Valley, it would take you a longer time.
In Africa, I'm an Igbo man. I don't even know that I'm black because everybody's black. It's like asking a fish what is water. So Silicon Valley also has the aspect of the fact that it's about 3% black, which a lot of people don't realize until they get here.
Where I work right now, I'm the only female mobile engineer. I'm also the only black mobile engineer. It's not something that I expected. The culture fit is still a big topic here. You wouldn't think that people can refuse to hire you because you don't fit into a culture.
It's happened in small ways where, you go to a meeting with an investor and you can tell that they're
They just don't want to hear what you have to say. And, you know, maybe it's your venture, maybe it's like what you're working on, but sometimes you can kind of feel that it's just because of you and like your color, and they're not even open to it. They just don't have to deal with people of color on a regular basis. From my perspective, I just brush it off and I'm just like, okay, you know, not for me, let's move on.
If a company just invested time and said, look, we're going to sponsor you, we're going to provide your visa, your work visa, to come to Silicon Valley and work for us, you'll have this opportunity. But they're not going that route. And you have to ask yourself why. There's talent. These people are brilliant.
One of the ways to solve that is just making sure that tech is part of that pool of options for us, to make it the norm, right? Where when they see an African entrepreneur or, you know, a black founder, it's like, oh, that's normal.
Hey, it's good.
How's it going?
I'm back sooner than you thought. Huh?
Yeah.
How was the integration? Was it good? What you want to do as an African in the Valley is really plug into as many networks as you can, because that's ultimately kind of how you find the people who are ultimately going to root for your success.
I definitely see myself doing this for the next, you know, at least 5 to 10 years. And I think anytime you're building a company, you have to be thinking long term. I'm also a realist, and I know that if the worst happens, right, we get to a certain stage where it's like, look, you know, we've sort of like exhausted all of our options, and this is the best we can do with this thing. There'll be something else that I work on.
I think the biggest impact that an African entrepreneur can have on Africa is to be seen, be a role model. Be something and someone that people want to aspire to be like. Be successful.
Thank you, Eddie. All right.
Apple actually has a woman of African descent. She's actually Ghanaian. That's one of their top people in marketing. Her name is Bozoma St. John. And that's what I'm trying to achieve. I don't want to fit in, because I feel like when you fit in, you don't stand out.
Come on, y'all.
I love the Valley, but I only love it to the extent that I can establish these networks between the Valley and Africa that make Africa better. And I think that's ultimately the vision of Africa that we believe Flutterwave is going to enable. One Africa, starting with unified financial infrastructure.